Multiplying fractions. To multiply two fractions, you first multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators, and then write the product in the simplest form. So we'll have numerator times numerator over denominator times denominator, and then we will reduce that to get our simplest form. So let's look at our first example here. We have 1/3 times 3/5. So we'll do numerator times numerator over denominator times denominator. So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. 3/15 can be reduced. We have to figure out what can go into both the top number and the bottom number equally. So 3 can go into 3 equally, and 3 can go into 15 equally. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So 1/3 times 3/5 is 1/5. Okay, so let's look at another example, 6/7 times 2/3. So we're going to do numerator times numerator over denominator times denominator. So 6 times 2 is 12. 7 times 3 is 21. 12 21st, we need to see if we can reduce that. So is there something that can go into both the top and bottom number equally? And there is. We can reduce that by 3 over 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 21 divided by 3 is 7, 4/7. That is in its smallest, most reduced form. So 4/7 is our answer. So now let's look at multiplying a fraction times a whole number. You cannot multiply a fraction times a whole number. You have to only multiply fractions times fractions. So what we need to do is take our whole number and turn it into a fraction. And the way you take all whole numbers and turn them into fractions is to just simply stick a 1 under your whole number. So my problem now is no longer 1/2 times 18, it's 1/2 times 18 over 1. So then numerator times numerator over denominator times denominator. So 1 times 18 is 18, 2 times 1 is 2. My numerator is larger than my denominator, so I have an improper fraction here. So I need to take it and change it back into either a whole number or a mixed number, depending on how our math works out. So we will do 18 divided by 2. And how many times can 2 go into 18? 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 minus 18 is 0. So 18 over 2 is 9. So my answer to 1/2 times 18 is 9. Okay, so now let's look at multiplying mixed numbers and fractions. You have to take your mixed number and change it to an improper fraction. You cannot just multiply mixed number times a fraction. So the first step in this problem is to take that mixed number, 3 and 1/3, and change that into an improper fraction. And you do that by taking your whole number, multiplying it by your denominator, and then adding in your numerator. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 makes 10, and that all goes over the same denominator. So it goes over 3. So now my problem becomes 10/3 times 3/4. And this is just fraction times fraction. So numerator times numerator over denominator times denominator. So 10 times 3 is 30. 3 times 4 is 12. When we look at our answer here, our numerator is larger than our denominator, so that's that's an improper fraction. So we need to take that and change it to a mixed number. So to do that, we take our numerator and divide it by our denominator. So 30 divided by 12. How many times will 12 go into 30? 2 times. 2 times 12 is 24. 30 minus 24, we need to borrow from our 3, change our 0 to a 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. 2 minus 2 is 0. So we're going to a mixed number, so we can take our remainder of 6 and put it over our divisor of 12. So 2 and 6/12. Anytime I'm answering with a fraction, where a fraction is involved, I have to make sure that I reduce my fraction. So 6/12, they're both even numbers, so they absolutely can be reduced. So just move your whole number over and then come over here and take your fraction and reduce it. And you have to decide what can go into both a 6 and a 12 equally. And 6 can go into both of those equally. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So my answer is 2 and 1/2. Okay, let's look at one last example. Grace is making 2.5 batches of muffins for her school's annual bake sale. If one batch of muffins requires 1 1/4 cups of flour, how many cups of flour does Grace need to make 2 1/2 batches of muffins? So first thing we do is pull out what we know. So we know that she's making 2 1/2 batches of muffins. We know that she needs 1 1/4 cups of flour for each batch. Okay, and I'm looking for how many cups of flour. So I want to know how many cups of flour it's going to take to make 2.5 batches if I use 1 1/4 cups of flour for each batch. So to work this out, my problem is going to be 2 1/2 times 1 1/4. Okay? So when I look at this, I have 2 mixed numbers. So 2 mixed numbers, can't do mixed number times a mixed number. I need to take both of my mixed numbers and change those into an improper fraction. So let's start with our first one, 2 1/2. So whole number times denominator plus numerator. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 makes 5, all over the same denominator, so over 2. And then we need to do the same thing with 1 1/4. So whole number times denominator plus numerator. So 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 makes 5, and that's all over the same denominator of 4. So now my problem becomes 5 over 2 times 5 over 4. Now we're multiplying fraction times fraction, so numerator times numerator over denominator times denominator. So 5 times 5 is 25. 2 times 4 is 8. I have an improper fraction there, so I need to change it to a mixed number. So numerator divided by denominator, so 25 divided by 8. 8 will go into 25 3 times. 3 times 8 makes 24. 25 minus 24 gives me 1. Take that 1, put it over your divisor, so that 25/8 is the same as 3 1/8. So she will use 3 1/8 cups of flour for her 2.5 batches that she's making.